It's currently March 23rd, Thursday. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, but it's 2023. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was actually these lamps that are right next to me. This one and that one over there. So this house, this is like the house I've grown up in. And this room has changed a lot over the years, but there's always basically been a lamp in this corner and in that corner. And I remember when I was really young, my grandpa and my grandma and my grandpa used to come here. And then sometimes my grandpa would sit out here, I remember. And then he would turn on the lamp. And I would be so confused or so interested because the room looked totally different than what I expected. Like normally I was used to there's like an overhead light like way over there. And I was so, like these overhead lights, I was so used to the overhead lights being turned on, like, and it just being bright in this room. But when my grandpa was here, he would always turn on these lamps, and that was like the first, I guess, interaction I ever had with like mood lighting. So I had no idea why it felt so cozy in the room when my grandpa was here. And I remember just thinking, oh, it's the lights. It's having the mood lights turned on, or like a dimmer light turned on instead of having the overheads. I don't know. So I just remember it was really long ago. That was like 20 something years ago. But I have that specific memory just sitting in my brain. And then my grandpa Harvey I can't even remember his voice. I wish I could remember his voice. He passed away when I was pretty young. But I even have a portrait of him in the laundry room over there. Maybe I should go show that just for memory's sake. Actually, I'm going to do that because I want to remember what he looks like. 1 second. So this is my Grandpa Harvey right there. He was a good man. And there's a younger picture of him, or a portrait, and my grandma when she was younger. But anyway. So yeah, he used to always just sit out here and then just be chilling. But I remember a lot of like the memories I have with him are actually at my grandma's house. He used to be like really good at golf and bowling. Like I don't really remember ever seeing him play this, but my mom would always tell me that he was really good at those things. But one thing I really remember, and it's a very fond memory I have, is always when I was sleeping over. So my grandpa lived in New York with my grandma in a super tiny house. And whenever I would go there, I would sleep in the basement with my family. And then every morning my grandpa would wake up at like 5 in the morning or something crazy. And he would always go out to golf. So he'd wake up, that's why he was waking up so early. And he would always turn the TV on in the back room. There was like this little den, and there was a TV there. It was like a super old school TV. And I was way too young to know how to operate it. I must have been like 4 or 5 years old or something. But he would always turn it on. It would always be on Cartoon Network. And I would always remember just watching whatever was on, like Scooby-Doo or something, or Dexter's Lab, or anything really, whatever was on at that time. I can't even remember, but I just know that there was always cartoons playing, and I always appreciated that because I would always wake up before the rest of my family, and I would have to like sneak past my parents because they slept in the basement with us too in my grandma's house. And it was like this really big basement. It had like its room for the 2 beds where my parents would sleep, and then there was 2 more beds like in this other room downstairs where my sister and I would sleep. And it's like I can just so vividly remember that room too. But anyways, yeah, my grandpa used to turn the TV on, and I would always walk upstairs and watch the TV, and I really appreciated that. It's weird because I don't know. I don't remember what his voice sounds like because I was just so young. But I can remember seeing him. I remember he always used to wear like some like sweaters, like some like green, like dark green sweaters and long like golf pants, stuff like that. I have a lot of like whenever I think about my grandpa or my grandma or New York, like that specific house where my grandparents lived, I always have such like I feel like it's like little compartment in my consciousness or something stored away. It's like a cozy part of my brain. So if I'm ever feeling stressed out, I like to just remember my grandma and grandpa's house and how I felt when I was young. There's so many stories I could talk about. Like, I mean, that's where me and my dad used to play like Zelda Ocarina of Time, I remember. That was when I got hooked onto the N64. My dad bought me an N64 for my sister and I. And then I was always playing it. My sister kind of liked it, but I was the one that was always playing it. And I remember one time we randomly got Zelda Ocarina of Time, like the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and my dad and I were playing it so much. And then we would always play it at my grandma's house. I can still remember the level, like the exact detail. I remember sitting in the like far back left den. There was a TV there. My dad and I would post up on the floor, and we would just play. And I remember we were in the Spirit Temple in the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, if you guys know that game. And it was the two witches. It was like the Ice Witch and the Fire Witch. And I remember my dad and I playing that level and beating the Spirit Temple. I think we might have even beaten the game there at my grandma's house, because the Spirit Temple was always towards the end. But just like, I remember so many of these details, man. I can remember like in that room, the ground was colder than the little couches that we had in there. So my dad would always like say, "Oh, if you're hot, sit on the ground. It's cooler, like cool air sinks," or whatever. He'd always tell me that kind of stuff. Man, I'm just like trying to think what else. Oh yeah, and I remember my grandpa. He brought me to like this shopping center. Must have been like a Blockbuster or something, some game store. And I remember he took me into the store and he told me I could pick out whatever game I wanted. And I can still remember there was like this white pegboard with all the Nintendo 64 games posted up on or they're like hoisted up on the little metal prongs that you could stick into the white pegboard. And then I saw Glover, and for some reason I picked that game. I picked Glover. So that was my game of choice. I remember taking that back. I remember playing it. I remember getting stuck on the stupid like carnival level. And I remember there also being like this pool level where you had to like, I don't know, I just remember there being like a pool and there was something that you were fighting in the pool. And it was like a really like peaceful looking level, but that game was super stress inducing. It was a really difficult game. But anyways, I'm just kind of remembering some random stuff about my grandpa and my grandma's house, and just wanted to like document it, I guess, and preserve the memory. There's a lot more memories that are popping into my head, but I think I'm going to keep it to those ones for now. But anyway, see ya. Good night.